Hi everybody, it's the Soap Man. Thursday evening, I'm making some soap, obviously. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try, this crock pot generally will cook a hot process batch within 15 minutes if I get everything to trace it. I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you how I do it, and then I'll talk to you once it starts cooking. I actually do put my colors into the heated oils. Let them cook in there. So I am putting 1 tablespoon of titanium dioxide in here. I'm going to take my stick blender, get it in there, and mix it up. You see that? Now, of course, this is just the oil, so we have no risk of acceleration here. Let's get you a little closer. Okay, no risk of acceleration because this is just the oil. Now, I'm going to use Brambleberry's Electric Bubble Gum, which is basically a hot pink, but I don't want really hot pink. That's why I put a tablespoon of titanium dioxide in to kind of tone it down and make it more of just a manageable pink. So I'm going to put about a teaspoon and a half of that hot pink in there. Mix it in. To get a creamy pink. Once again, this is just oils. There's no lye in this, so we're not worried about acceleration or saponification or anything like that. Let me close these up so they don't spill. Okay, just kind of close that up a little. Get those mixed in there. That's kind of the pink that I'm looking for. Now, let's go ahead, put some lye into this, get it to a thick trace, and then I'll talk to you about a few things, what I'm working on while this cooks. My lye water has a lot of Testa Silk, way more than I usually put into it. I just want to try and see if it makes a difference. Now, since this is hot process, I want a very thick trace. Very thick pudding trace. So this may take a minute. However, it's starting already because it's really hot. The lye is hot and the oils are hot. I don't worry about temperatures when doing a hot process. Thickening up, but not thick enough yet. It's a gravy trace right now. This is the trace I like to have for a drop swirl. Now we're thickening up. We're sort of at a thin pudding, or a thick flour gravy. Leaving a few trace marks, but not what I want yet, so let's do it again. Getting close, not quite. In my hot process, I like it very well emulsified, a very nice thick trace. Can you see the trace marks? Let me hit it one more time and we'll show you the trace marks. Alright, now, let me stir this up. This is good enough for me. Trace. Let's get this over here. Can you see the trace marks in this? See how the stick blender leaves marks in it? That's a really nice thick trace. Okay, I'm going to set you down for just a minute, get my stick blender out of here before this hardens up, because it's going to get real hard real fast. Set that aside. We're going to put the lid on this and let it start doing its thing. Get my stick blender out of the way because I'm definitely finished with it. Okay, now, this in here is going to get really hard really fast, but then it's going to start to cook again. So let's move you back, move you out of the way. Well, you can see it just a little bit. I want to leave that. Okay, now what I want to talk about is a couple of things. First of all, the last time I did hot process, I was doing a cold process at the same time, so you could kind of see both projects going. Well, I can't do that right now. That's going to get really hard really fast, but it's going to actually start cooking and folding up in on its side, which is what it's supposed to do. You can actually see it's already just a little bit on the sides right there, starting to bubble. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. I'm not worried about my temperatures on hot process because it's going to cook and get very, very hot. So I want to go ahead and do my hot oils and my hot lye all together. Don't worry about letting them cool down. I'll post the recipe below, but the recipe for this is in ounces, 3.5 apricot kernel oil, 10.5 olive oil, 2 castor oil, 9 coconut oil, 9 palm oil, 3.5 shea butter, 5.25 lye, 12.4 water. This is a 5% super fat. Now, super fat in hot process. Sometimes I like to cook this as 0% super fat and put my super fat in at the end. And a lot of you like to do that, and I do too actually. This one, I'm not doing it that way. This is a 5% super fat. It's already incorporated into the recipe. So I will not be adding a super fat at the end. It already is in there. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm using a scent oil that I want to use with this. But the scent oil misbehaves just a little bit. It's brambleberries, applejack peel. They say that if it gets over 120 degrees, it tends to rise. It definitely accelerates in cold process. I have used it in hot process, and I have never had rising issues because I think, this is my theory, there's almost no oil left to bind to cause the rising except for your minimal superfat. So I just want to go ahead and have the superfat already very, very well mixed in there so I don't have issues with that. So I'm not sure if I read this all too. Let me read this one more time. 3.5 apricot kernel oil, 10.5 olive oil, 2 castor oil, 9 coconut oil, 9 palm oil, 3.5 shea butter. Those are the oils that are in here. This is already cooking really well. I'll show you in just a minute. A 5% super fat, and I used 5.25 ounces of lye, 12.4 ounces of water, and I am going to add in at the end 2.75 ounces of applejack peel, which is the strong recommendation, and I love the applejack peel. Now, what I'm going to do, you watched me before, you know I like to put embeds. When I have soap left over, these are not pretty at all, but I'm going to chop these up When this soap is cooked, ready to go together, I'm going to put these chops in there and it'll look really nice. What this is this soap that I published several weeks ago. This is the actual bar that shows up on the web page. I said I'd show you what it looks like. This was once a golden yellow. It's now turned brown like it's supposed to. That's the espresso, which I love the scent of. The titanium dioxide is unscented. The black has the espresso in it, and this tan down here has the oatmeal milk and honey. It smells fantastic. I'll be giving these out in a couple of weeks. Here's the last hot process batch that I did in the tall skinny one. This is hot process soap. These are embeds that were left over, chopped up, put into the hot process at the end. I'm currently using one of these in the shower right now. Fantastic, I love it. I also told you I would show you my soaps that I did using the natural colorants. This is the one I did a couple of weeks ago using the turmeric to get this color, titanium dioxide for this, and the rose clay, which is bentonite clay with kind of a red tint in it, for this color. So this is a natural colored soap. That's what it's looking like so far. But these embeds were the ones that I had with those other, with the espresso and the oatmeal milk and honey, and they went in the mold. They just look awful. So that's what I want to do with these, is go ahead and chop these up. When this soap is cooked, go ahead and get them in there. Now let me show you right now what my soap's doing. It's starting to fold up on the sides. Can you see that? Especially over there. I'm going to have to watch it real quick because it's actually separating a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's some oil on the top of that starting to separate, but it's supposed to do that. It does that. This is getting to what's called the applesauce stage. So what we're going to do now, while that is kind of going through the applesauce stage, is these embeds. You can't see that. Let's go here so you can see it. Chop these up, and I don't do anything fancy. I just do a very rough, unequal, unplanned cut. Actually, I'm just not even going to cut on that. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it here so you can see it. So, slice a piece off. I usually like large ones, and slice it down through the center like that. Down like that to get both colors. Kind of on the edge. So you see what I mean? So we don't have uniform cuts. Random, I think, is better with this. It may just be my preference. And the reason I'm using the scent and the color with this, I don't really have a color or a scent that complements these. But in the Applejack peel, even though it misbehaves, it seems to work really well in hot process. And the cinnamon is the primary note that seems to stay. And I think that that cinnamon will complement these. And I think the pink color will also complement these. Now, I'm standing here watching the crock pot because it's really starting to fold over on the sides, and it's going to get pretty. It's going to start to foam up. It's going to volcano if I don't watch it. So I'm really watching it closely. When you do hot process, don't leave it. Never leave it alone. And I'm standing here, I'm seeing it. I'll show you here as soon as I cut these. Now look how yellow that is. Kind of golden yellow. That is the espresso that hasn't been exposed to the air. When that's exposed to the air, that will turn brown like that. I'm going to have to hurry here because it's starting to bubble up on the sides and it'll volcano over if I don't watch it. So let's get these aside. These are ready to go in when the soap is cooked. These will go in at the end when the soap is cooked and ready to be molded. Okay, we got our spatula here. Oops. Put the goggles on. Okay, some of you by now are probably wondering, am I wearing gloves? No. Should I be? Absolutely. I'm out of gloves. I'm being extra careful. Am I wearing goggles? You better believe it. Real truth is, if I get lye on my hands, it's going to hurt. Especially the lye water, which I'm already done with, it's going to hurt. I've had the actual soap batter on my hands. It's just not that bad. I wear gloves normally just to be safe, but I have a sink over here. Now, I know a lot of people think, you need to rinse it with vinegar because the acid in the vinegar neutralizes the lye. The thing is, if you look at the material safety data sheet for lye, it says nothing about vinegar. It says cold water only. So if I get this on my hands, I'm going to run over to the sink and rinse it off. But it's time to stir or I'm going to have a volcano here. This is what we call the mashed potato stage. Now, obviously this is pink, but if this were just plain uncolored soap, it would look a lot, excuse me, this is the applesauce stage. If this were just plain uncolored soap, it would look a lot like applesauce. It's wanting to separate, which is completely normal. So we're just going to stir everything down. Get it back into the crock pot, down in the bottom. Let it do its thing again. Put the lid back on it. Now the lid is on. I'm going to take my goggles off because everything's covered. My eyes are okay now. So these are the embeds that are going in that hot pink. And I think they'll complement that hot pink as well as this wonderful scent that I love. Let me show you a couple of things I'm working on. When I did the natural colors, I had a little bit left over that went into my spillover mold. This was a mold that my friend Lisa Thorson from Blossom Birch and Soaps gave me. So it has a nice pattern. I had just a plain muffin mold. Also, let me show you a couple of things that I made. It's going to be similar color, this kind of creamy pink. This is 100% tallow soap. I'll not be giving this out. I'll not be using it. Actually, I might keep one for the shower. But this is a booster bar. If you watch my videos where I use my cold process soap to wash dishes, and I have a little bit of a booster bar, in other words, let's see, do I have a sponge over here? No, I don't. Yeah. I'll take my sponge and kind of rub this on there and get this really, really, really soapy and use this to wash the dishes. These are my booster bar soap. So I had 6 of these. No, I had 4 of these in the muffin mold, and I had 6 of these with this design. But this is 100% tallow. I did put a color to it. I did not scent it. 100% tallow, and it's tallow that I rendered myself. It's animal fat that it was already here. It would have gone to the landfill otherwise. Therefore, the animal fat did not go to waste. Now, I got to stir this again. It's really fluffing up. You see that? Look how it's fluffing up. Completely normal. This is why you never, ever, ever leave your hot process soap unattended. Because I have made that mistake. And it fluffs up, pushes the lid off, goes clear over the side, all over the counter, all over the floor, and it's still caustic at this point. There's still lye in this. It can give you a lye burn. I have my goggles on. I'm being careful. Set that aside, put the lid back on. Now let me show you the soaps I have. Those are the ones that are my 100% tallow, which is tallow that I had left over that would have gone to the landfill. Those will be used to wash dishes. These are the ones that I've already made. Those will be given out Saturday. day after tomorrow. Those are the ones that I had left over. The ones with the dark brown is the espresso, and the tan is the oatmeal milk and honey. Those will be given out in 2 weeks. Those are the ones with the natural colors. They'll be given out in 3 weeks. That is the drop swirl. That'll be given out in 4 weeks. So, got 4 weeks already. I'm making another one. Those are my embeds. Okay. Let's angle you back down this way. Now, lids on, goggles off. Alright, we're good. That's actually all I have to say right now. This is going to cook for a little while. This is the reason I don't normally do hot process on camera, because I simply cannot pause my camera until this gets to the next stage. When this camera finally bites the dust, and it's an old camera, it probably not will be much longer. When this camera bites the dust, I'm going to buy some equipment when I can do this, so I can actually pause this and bring you back in. I can't right at the moment, so let's see. Yeah, we're still good. We're still recording. I'm going to leave you for just a minute. I will be back in just a moment, and we'll see what the next stage is. Stir it just a little bit more. We're still sort of at that applesauce stage. Even though it's pink, it's sort of applesaucey, and I see a little bit of oil on top where it's still doing some separation, but it's really climbing up the sides, which it's supposed to do. So, goggles back on, lid off to stir it. Incorporate the oils back in. Evenly distribute the heat. Now we're not there yet, but we're getting close to the mashed potato stage, which is the next stage of hot process. We're real close to mashed potato stage. In case you're interested, this completely white muffin bar of soap, I've got 4 of these. This was a free sample of second distilled peppermint oil from Brambleberry, and I got 4 muffin bar soaps this size. When I get a free sample from them, I always do 100% coconut oil. That actually really is my favorite soap, is 100% coconut oil with a 20% superfat. It's fantastic. And I made these about 2 months ago, and they still just absolutely smell wonderful. it says that because of the peppermint oil, it has sort of a cooling effect, and I've been waiting for the weather to warm up, and here in West Virginia, just this week it has started to warm up. So I'm actually looking forward to taking one of these in the shower. 100% coconut oil, 20% super fat,